The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. What more can be said about this game that hasn't already been said? Well, in today's video, I'm going to give my own personal perspective of how this game has impacted me, especially considering I have never played a Zelda game before this one. So, welcome back, and if you're new here, welcome. On this channel, we talk about all things video games, comic books, movies, pop culture, the stuff that I'm into. There's stuff here for everyone, so consider subscribing so you don't miss an episode. So again, at the expense of repeating something that you might have already seen in other reviews and things like that, since this game is already 6.5 years old at this point, I wanted to give a fresh perspective of somebody that's never played a Zelda game and somebody that is just getting into Zelda games after Tears of the Kingdom even came out. Now, this particular game is, for lack of a better word, amazing. There's so much to talk about that I'm not even going to scratch the surface, and in playing the game, I haven't even scratched the surface of everything that you can do in the game. Which brings me to the biggest thing, and the thing that I love the most about this game is the exploration and just the entire gameplay of it itself. Now, the story is a little bit lacking compared to other big open world games and other big AAA title games like The Legend of Zelda. It's a household name. And so when you hear household names, you tend to think great stories, very elaborate, intricate details. And this game definitely is riddled with a bunch of details. It's a little bit lacking in the story department. But that's not a bad thing, because where this game shines and where you can really see that they put so much effort is into playing the game itself. And that just brings me back to games of the 90s and early 2000s where the gameplay really was king. When I think of this game, I think of all of the times that I'm just running around for hours, hitting up shrines, climbing mountains, paragliding, and just having fun. And that's ultimately what games are about, is just to have fun and have that great experience and really just explore a world that is so unlike yours, but has so many realistic touches to it. I mean, it took me forever to realize that you can actually push boulders down the sides of mountains, so if there's enemies below me, I can just push a boulder and it just takes them out for me. Even with the cold weather, one of the things that I struggled with in the beginning of the game, about 2-3 hours into the game, there was a shrine that I wanted to get to that was in a cold area of a mountain. And my first thought was, let me climb this mountain and get to this shrine as quickly as possible before all of my hearts run out. After dying about 4 or 5 times, I realized that's not going to work. And so then I rethought my strategy, and basically at this point I wasn't able to get any clothes or any kind of upgrades or elixirs to have any kind of cold resistance. So I just showered myself with a bunch of apples and shrooms and all these other things that I could find, and I basically just kept eating as much as I could just to be able to get to the shrine before I died. And what I loved most about that is that the game didn't hold my hand to tell me how to get through this cold area. It let me figure this out, especially for where I wasn't able to get any clothes that had cold resistance and things like that. I had to figure out how I was going to get to the shrine, especially because this was in the beginning of the game before you even leave the Great Plateau. And so you had to get to that shrine to get to the rest of the game. And the fact that the game didn't hold my hand, I had to figure this out. I felt very rewarded and accomplished when I finally figured out how I was going to get to where I needed to go. And that also goes to show that there are so many different solutions to the problems that you encounter in this game. You really have to use your mind to not only get through the puzzles in the shrines, but to also be able to get to shrines that are hard to get to. How are you going to defeat the enemy that has certain weak spots? And how are you going to survive in cold areas or really hot areas? I mean, there's so many layers of things that you have to think about at this game. And, you know, there's so much to this game that, like I said, I haven't even scratched the surface on all the things you can do. And I'm very far as time-wise into the game. Now, the graphics for something that is on the Switch is just absolutely incredible. And what is even more incredible is when you put it in perspective of the fact that this was a launch title for the Nintendo Switch. And so to have these kind of great graphics that are not very well rivaled even to today is incredible to think of, that when the Switch came out, this incredible game, this gigantic map of a game came out, and it was one of the launch titles for the Switch. It just blows my mind. the level of detail in the things that you can do, like being able to, take out the grass that's around you, and there might be fairies or crickets or things under the grass that you can't see unless you chop down the grass. And the amount of time that it took for me to realize that I can chop down grass to be able to get things is incredible. I was probably about 10-15 hours into the game before I realized that you can do that. And for some of the people that have played the older Zelda games that already know that you can do that, well, again, give me some grace. This was my first Zelda game. The music is so calm and serene, and it really does get you amped up and excited when you are in a battle or you're doing a boss battle, a guardian battle. There's really incredible music to fit the scene of what you're doing, and especially with the calm and serene music when you're just exploring Hyrule, you really get the sense that you can just stay here for hours at end and feel very at home with what you're doing and all that you're exploring, and time will just fly by because the music is just so calming and just so serene just to keep you moving through the game. It's just very fitting for the type of game that this is. Now, for some people, I definitely understand that this game is not that exciting of a game. Like I said, the story is a bit lacking, and the fact that it doesn't hold your hand and tell you what to do and when to do it. The tutorial section, which didn't even really feel like a tutorial section, was just very interesting because it took a lot of figuring out how to not only get through some of the basic puzzle shrines that were there, but how to get to this cold area or how to cross this body of water to get to one of the shrines. And it's very intriguing to find a game in the modern age that harkens back to the level of no hand-holding that the older games used to have, but still feel very modern in the graphics and the music and the overall aesthetic of the game. This is a coming-of-age sort of story with Link, being able to regain his memories and prove who he is and help all of the people that are around him. And it's an incredible game that matches and balances the various expectations that I'm sure a lot of the older Zelda players have had for this game. And it also really is inviting for the newer Zelda players like myself, to where I'm just so excited to get into Tears of the Kingdom and get into some of the older ones like Link to the Past and just all the other Zelda games that are honestly timeless classics. So with that said, I am going to get back to playing some more Breath of the Wild, and until next time, I will see you in the next episode. Peace.